All right, so move on to the final segment. We're going to pivot over here to the world of wrestling, and I'll be sharing my own personal list of my own personal moments and times of the lowest points of being a wrestling fan. So over the years, I've been watching basically my whole life. These are the lowest moments that I felt being a wrestling fan. So one of the moments that comes back, and this was recent memory back in the calendar year 2019, this comes to the point where it was a dream match for some, but we got it way too late in these respective wrestlers' careers. I'm talking about The Undertaker versus Goldberg, the match that took place at Super Showdown in Saudi Arabia in the calendar year in 2019. Now, I was already really on the fence about this one. Why Vince McMahon, this late in The Undertaker and Goldberg's career, why pull the trigger now to have these respective wrestlers wrestle each other in a one-on-one match when you could have had that in their prime days when Goldberg was on the WWE roster from, 2002 to 2004? After his departure from WCW, or when WCW went out of business, you could have already had this dream match. But you insisted to have it so late in these respective wrestlers' career when they're past their prime days. Then, mind you, before the bell even began, during Goldberg's entrance, Goldberg, his old ass, was trying to get himself fired up, was banging his head on either the door or the wall, and gave himself a concussion. He was bleeding and came out to the ring bleeding before the bell even rang. And this man was already concussed before the match even began. So then that put basically The Undertaker in harm's way because Goldberg wasn't executing his moves well. I think that when Goldberg hoisted The Undertaker up, it got to the point where he could have, for his finisher, he could have honestly injured The Undertaker, broke his damn neck, with The Undertaker being in his damn 50s at the time. But The Undertaker, once the match concluded, I think The Undertaker only used a choke slam to put him away. And you could tell after the bell rang, the final bell was over, The Undertaker's face, it was in full disgust. Like, he couldn't believe how bad that match really was between himself and Goldberg. And that was the only one-on-one encounter we ever got of these two Hall of Famers in their wrestling careers. And Goldberg even went out and apologized to The Undertaker based off of what happened. And Goldberg doesn't even remember the match to this day. But I just remember how dominant Goldberg was in his WCW prime days, and the legendary phenom, The Undertaker, one of the greatest of all time. You think about how special this match could have been in their primes, and then you look back at how bad it was when these wrestlers were in their 50s. Definitely a low point moment being a wrestling fan in the calendar year 2019. But next one, this one was a really low standpoint of being a wrestling fan, and this one hits home. Vince McMahon's booking from 2017 to 2022 was just ferocious. And it got to the point where I was hanging on for dear life to be a loyal WWE fan. So I don't want to hear anything of how Triple H does things booking wise. If you weren't here in the trenches from 2017 to 2022, you ain't seen nothing. So this was in the time point where Vince McMahon was playing hot potato with part-timers like Goldberg, wrestling away the Universal title from Kevin Owens in 2017, burying The Fiend Bray Wyatt in 2019 to win the Universal title. And I'm talking about Brock Lesnar also getting unnecessary world title reigns for whatever reason, especially when he buried Kofi Kingston in a matter of 9 seconds to win the WWE title on the edition of SmackDown, their debut on the Fox network. I mean, there were so many bad spots. You could throw in the 2019 too, where The Fiend Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins were wrestling for the Universal Championship in a Hell in a Cell match, and Seth Rollins gets disqualified in a Hell in a Cell match. The fans were just livid with disgust that someone got disqualified in a Hell in a Cell match. And you could throw in 2018, where Braun Strowman cashed in his Money in the Bank contract, and then I think Brock Lesnar returned, and then the cash-in was unsuccessful, and the Hell in a Cell match between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman just became a no contest. Like, what are we doing? The booking was just horrible. And don't even get me started with Brock Lesnar losing the WWE title to Bobby Lashley in the year 2022 at the Royal Rumble, just for him to get in the Royal Rumble match and then win it all. And then not even use his WrestleMania opportunity, but use it at Elimination Chamber to win the WWE title, then force us to get a Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar undisputed title. Yeah, I'm just going to stop right there. If you guys were not in the trenches or being a wrestling fan in 2017 to 2022, don't talk to me about Triple H's booking and complain about the product a day ever again. But that was definitely a low point because I nearly gave up watching wrestling completely. Another low point is when you think about it, I just talked about Triple H's booking. I don't have a problem with how the product is. I mean, there's a few things you could tweak, but overall, I'll take it based off of what I just said. But we went through a few years ago being wrestling fans. But I will say today that TKO has their fingerprints on the WWE product. And if you guys haven't noticed that yet, I don't know if you guys are truly paying attention because they have their fingerprints on what they want in the product. I don't think Triple H has 100% control of the WWE booking. He does good, don't get me wrong. But if you guys pay attention to how the product was in 2022 when he took over, until around this time of 2024 last year, I'm starting to see a pattern that TKO is having their fingerprints somehow, some way in the WWE product. Maybe it will get exposed one day, but I definitely know it's happening behind backstage. Now, this one really hits home to me. A low point dates back to WrestleMania 34. Yeah, WrestleMania 34. This WWE Championship match between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura was definitely a low point because I felt like their WrestleMania match didn't live. Their whole entire feud in 2018 didn't even come close to how special their matches used to be in New Japan Pro Wrestling. That one standout match between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, they never reached the magic that they had. I don't know if it was due to the timing. I don't know if it was due to what type of wrestling style that Vince was looking for, whoever booked the match creative-wise. But that WrestleMania 34 match should have stole the show that year in New Orleans in 2018, and it definitely didn't. It was actually one of the worser matches on the card, and the unnecessary, it had the wrong winner. I mean, Shinsuke Nakamura had all the aura behind him winning the 2018 Royal Rumble. The WWE Universe was behind him. He should have won the WWE title. But then you had an unnecessary heel turn that really damaged the character of Shinsuke Nakamura overall in his WWE run. I think it comes to what happened and transpired based off of this night, WrestleMania 34. So that was definitely a low point for me, watching the feud between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura not live up to its hype, its expectations, and just fall flat on the WWE product compared to how they were hitting it out of the park in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So definitely a low point there. DX, let's talk about it. Remember when The Undertaker actually retired Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 26 in the calendar year 2010? Remember 8 years later that Shawn Michaels actually came out of retirement to have a Dream Tag Team match that happened too little too late. I'll talk about D-Generation X versus the Brothers of Destruction, Kane and The Undertaker in tag team action in the calendar year 2018. Again, all four of these wrestlers are past the prime of their careers. And Shawn Michaels sold out to come out of retirement for a big, massive payday in Saudi Arabia, only for this match to really be uneventful. And when fans think about it, they just get a sour taste in their mouth because it's crazy that we never got this tag team match, this dream tag team match, when all four were in the prime of their careers. You had all the time in the world to do it, Vince. But you wait until 2018 when they're old, they can't move around anymore the way they used to. I think Triple H actually had a quad injury or tore something in his quad like 4 or 5 minutes in the match. He was basically depleted. Or it might have been, he might have had a quad injury and his pec. I think he definitely tore something in his pec. But Shawn wasn't moving well. The Undertaker wasn't moving well. Kane's mask was about to come off. I mean, this match was just a complete mess. Definitely a low spot for me as a wrestling fan. That was definitely hitting rock bottom. Another one, I know a lot of people say Eddie Guerrero's passing. I actually started watching the product in 2006. So I was just late on Eddie's passing. But I will say a passing that touched home to me was Bray Wyatt in the calendar year 2023. His passing hurt because Bray Wyatt was like a Mick Foley, the modern era Mick Foley in wrestling. I mean, the fact that Bray Wyatt was just so creative with the characters, whether it was the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, his own persona, Bray Wyatt with the Wyatt family. I mean, this man was just so creative. And he was about to tap into another element, returning to the company in 2022. Only had one true feud, which was with LA Knight. In the beginning part of 2023, he unfortunately was not healthy. for 2023, got sick and unfortunately passed in the summer of 2023. But I think that passing definitely hit home to the wrestling community because he was about to go on an unprecedented run in his second stint with the company, and we never got to see it. And it's just unfortunate that he passed, not even hitting 40 years of age. But yeah, that was definitely a low point for me as a wrestling fan, watching Bray Wyatt unfortunately leave planet Earth, go to somewhere more special in heaven. But definitely his passing touched home to me as a wrestling fan, and that was a low point a few years ago. Again, I just said it a few moments ago, the 2022 Royal Rumble was just absolutely atrocious. The winners were absolute bullshit. I mean, we had Ronda Rousey return and win the 2022 Royal Rumble, which was unnecessary. I mean, after she just sabotaged the whole company of WWE, she just comes back and just wins the Royal Rumble. Oh, okay. Then Brock Lesnar, like I just said a few moments ago, lost the WWE title, won the Royal Rumble in the same night, then won the title back at the Elimination Chamber. Again, these unnecessary part-timers were just getting luxury after luxury after luxury treatment to the point where wrestling fans were just about to give up on the product. So that was definitely a low point for me. The booking of the big dog, Roman Reigns, in late 2019 nearly drove this man out of wrestling forever. I mean, Roman Reigns obviously, I don't mean no Diddy, but he just has the face and the aura to just take over in Hollywood one day when it's all said and done. And this man nearly went to Hollywood just right before everything basically kick-started in the second part of his career, where he became the tribal chief and had the company on his back. But if you guys remember, in 2019 on SmackDown, how the big dog Roman Reigns was just disgustedly booked. I mean, this man was losing against Shane McMahon, lost clean against Eric Rowan. I mean, it got to the point where he was being disgustingly booked. I mean, Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin had him wrapped up and chained up on the turnbuckle, pouring dog food all over this man and smearing his face and hair with dog food. I'm like, come on, is that really how you treat your wannabe top babyface at the time? And COVID nearly did it for Roman. He was about to pack his bag up and never return. But definitely a low point watching a caliber star like that hit rock bottom. Now, this one I stand to this day. This was a true low point as a wrestling fan. The streak ending was just it was so much bullshit in 2014. The streak should have never ended. The Undertaker's undefeated WrestleMania streak should have lived forever until he retired. And I stand on that. But having Brock Lesnar, out of all people, an established man that was already going to be a bona fide Hall of Famer, you have him and The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. And I think this streak was ended, so it would honestly steal the headlines the next morning of how WrestleMania 30 went in 2014 over the fact that Daniel Bryan had the big underdog story, defeating Triple H earlier in the night and then defeating Batista and Randy Orton to become the undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I think Vince McMahon ultimately wanted the Undertaker streak to end to get the biggest headlines over Daniel Bryan getting that moment, because remember, it was honestly supposed to be Batista versus Randy Orton for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship that year, but the Yes Movement and the WWE Universe bullied booking and the McMahon family to force Daniel Bryan into the main event scene for WrestleMania that year. But I just think, why end the streak to established star and to be so stubborn to have someone that gave you everything in his WWE career, to have his streak end just so you could have Daniel Bryan to overtake Daniel Bryan's moment? Honest bullshit. But that was definitely a low point. The calendar year 2007 was also a low point too. Like I said, I started watching wrestling in 2006. So the calendar year 2007, we were at a low point. Now, they did everything they could this year, but the injury bug just hurt them hard. It was a brutal year with top talent like Triple H being on the sidelines for most of the year. Rey Mysterio. The Undertaker, after he won the World Heavyweight Championship, was basically written off the television a month and a half, 2 months later. Edge, after he won the World Heavyweight title, 2-3 months later, was sidelined due to an injury and missed a big chunk of the year. And there were several others that were missing out of the calendar year 2007. Mr. Kennedy as well was injured. They also lost Bobby Lashley and Booker T as well by the end of the year. But also, the tragedy that happened with Chris Benoit really shook up the entire wrestling community in the calendar year 2007. And the news about that, it was a dark spot to be a wrestling fan in the calendar year 2007. Based off of this injuries and the news that we learned about Chris Benoit. I mean, again, the company did everything they could. You still got the Super Cena run as the WWE champion. You had CM Punk finally emerge as the world champion, being ECW champion. I like the cool segments that we had with MVP and Matt Hardy, their tag team run. But evidently, 2007 was a low point to be a wrestling fan, in my opinion, based off of everything that transpired in that calendar year. And this one hurts too. One of the best heel turns was supposed to be one of the best heel turns of all time, turning out to be a waste of time. I'm talking about John Cena when he turned heel earlier this year at the Elimination Chamber. This was honestly gold when it happened, when he aligned with The Rock and Travis Scott. But nobody knew how this heel turn was going to turn out, with The Rock fading away and going back to movie projects and Travis Scott flopping with the WWE. It just looked like a waste of time, because looking back at the history books, you're going to see that a hip-hop platinum star, Travis Scott, assisted John Cena to win his 17th world title, surpassing the all-time great, the Nature Boy Ric Flair's all-time record. And that's a low point. That is a low point that we're all going to think about one day. What could have been a special heel run, and John Cena's final run flopping and not doing what it was supposed to do, thanks to The Rock and Travis Scott and WWE Creative not having a long-term plan. Another one was Kurt Angle's final match in 2019 at WrestleMania 35. Was forced to wrestle Baron Corbin in his final match. Could have easily been John Cena, his final opponent, who was available for WrestleMania 35, but didn't wrestle on the card. But I think Baron Corbin humiliating Kurt Angle in his final wrestling match just for the heel to go over. Definitely a low point to me to see an all-time great like Kurt Angle, a Hall of Famer, wasted in his final wrestling match against a talent like Baron Corbin. And in the final one, low point would be in 2014, where we saw CM Punk leave the WWE. He was burnt out. He didn't like how booking was going. Had ongoing disputes with Vince McMahon and several others backstage. So CM Punk just packed it up and left wrestling in 2014. And it looked like we never were going to get CM Punk back in the wrestling ring. But he did come back home where he belongs and where he will finish his career, where he came back to the WWE in 2023. We know he spent time at AEW and all of that drama that happened. But that was a low point for me to see one of the best wrestlers in the world pack it up and leave in the prime of his career due to being burnt out, booking decisions. But now it's great to see CM Punk back home. But that's my own personal list of my lowest points being a wrestling fan. That is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.